Re-Zero, Volume 6, Chapter 2, Part 1. A Pig's Greed. I may not look it, but I am a surprisingly avid reader. The girl who spoke was sitting in an extravagant chair, resting one elbow upon it. She was flipping through an exquisitely bound book in her other arm, already perusing the latter half, and the sight made her seem different from the girl Subaru remembered. She wore a long-sleeved red nightgown similar to a negligee with an identically colored cape draped over her shoulders. Her voluptuous body was plain to see in her outfit, but the girl showed no outward sign of concern that a man was present. The girl was so natural, completely immersed in her book, that it was easy to forget she was in the middle of receiving a guest. Subaru felt himself unintentionally taken in by the solemnity of her gestures. Her graceful white fingertip traced the characters as her eyes passed over them. The young man felt like he could watch her all day. Perhaps it was because this unknown side of the girl before him had enchanted him. As Subaru stepped on the carpeted floor in his sneakers, he felt unsure of what to do now that he'd been ignored. Wondering if he was permitted to enter, the lady of the household was not paying him any attention. When he tried to forcefully begin a conversation, she rebuffed him with the first word. Surely she wasn't telling him to wait until she finished reading her book. That's excessive, no matter how much you cut it. Though he tried to deny his unease, seeing her leisurely turn the pages made that difficult. In point of fact, Subaru knew that the girl's personality was not incompatible with such irrationality. Her hair was orange, reminiscent of the sun. Her eyes were crimson, like a fire that would scorch away everything it touched. She had glossy white skin and a striking feminine figure. The thick perfume wafting around her was like poison. It was difficult for the word beautiful to sufficiently capture the sight of her as she silently examined her book. How much favor must the heavens have shown her to be loved by all? Her name was Pricilla Barrio. She was one of the candidates for the royal selection, as well as the next prospective cooperator Subaru sought an audience with. Subaru's shoulders sank when he learned Reinhardt was absent from the royal capital. The fact he'd confirmed after departing from the Krush compound, and while Rem was securing an inn. Reinhardt was the last one Subaru had hoped to rely on. An elderly couple inhabited the villa in the capital set aside for the Estrella family and had been charged with its care. When Subaru arrived without any forewarning, the two had welcomed him in and lent an ear to his request, but the young master returned to the main household with his liege, Lady Felt, and her family some 2 days ago. We can offer contract with him from our side, but just as he'd mentioned during his visit to the Krush residence, Reinhardt had left. Even though he remembered what Reinhardt had said, Subaru had still clung to a slender thread of hope, but was pleased with what had answered. Even if he could reach Reinhardt somehow, the distance from the royal capital to the main household of the Estrella family, and from there the distance to the Mathers lands, was fatal. The odds of him joining their forces in time were despairingly low. Subaru said his farewells to the elderly couple. Then, once he was out of sight of the mansion, he clutched his head. Roswell and Reinhardt are seriously useless, and right when I need 'em too. This time, everything was going wrong. One prospective collaborator fell through after another, leaving Subaru truly at an end of his rope. If only his return by death to Restore Point brought him back to the night when he parted ways with Reinhardt. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Think. I don't have strength, numbers, time, anything. Racking my brain is the only thing I can do. Desperately turning the gears in his head, Subaru earnestly fought to come up with the next best plan of action. Now that he'd scratched Krush and Reinhardt off the list, Subaru had scant few cards left in his hand to pick from. Considering the circumstances, pleading with the Knights of the Kingdom would no doubt produce the same results as a negotiation with the Krush. Besides, Subaru felt nothing but mistrust toward them. At the very least, now that Krush, someone he thought he could have a good relationship with, had abandoned him, a storm of paranoia toward others brewed inside Subaru. Not even realizing how this was narrowing his already limited options, Subaru could think of only two other people. However, one meant bowing his head to the finest of knights, someone he hated more than the knights in general, which was unthinkable. That left Subaru with a single candidate. Rem caught up finally, seeing Subaru deep in thought, and called out to him. Subaru, what should we do now? It's all right. Leave it to me. You don't have to do anything. Don't do anything. Just stay right behind me. That's enough. After that interruption, Rem turned a frail smile towards Subaru as he continued thinking to himself. I absolutely have to stop Rem from bearing the brunt of everything. Subaru knew that if it was to save him, Rem wouldn't hesitate to hurl herself at danger and cast her life away. He had to protect her, no matter what. Subaru was certain that she was emotionally dependent on him, and it was his duty to save her. Whatever might happen, he had to avoid losing her. There was no other option. If he couldn't protect Rem, saving Amelia and the villagers would lose all meaning. Even indulging his hatred of petal geese would be. Wait, that's. Subaru touched his temple as an exceedingly violent thought instantly came to mind. Just then, it almost seemed as if eliminating petal geese was a higher priority than saving Amelia and the others. Wasn't that exactly the thing Krush had pointed out earlier? It's all right. Everything's all right. I'll get this right. I'm gonna do it. I gotta do it. Subaru reassured himself, seemingly speaking for his own benefit. He ruminated on those words and pretended he had noticed nothing, as if he were putting a lid on top of a bottomless pit. This was the only way Subaru Natsuki could maintain his own sanity. The next morning, as dawn broke, the two returned to the noble's district to follow the slender thread that bore Subaru's remaining hopes. The noble's district on the upper section of the royal capital was lined with dazzling buildings. The showy facade of the stately mansion Subaru and Rem arrived at did not betray their expectations. No, it was more appropriate to say that it was showier and more extravagant than they had imagined. No need to ask for who this belongs to. I can't imagine anyone would have a hard time figuring out the owner of this place. Subaru was nonplussed. The sight of the luxurious mansion was not one he would soon forget, even from afar. The roof was painted over with gold that cast the light of the morning sun in all directions, while a number of intricate images had been engraved into the walls. As far as he could see, there were even reliefs adorning the windows, and a number of statues he could only call avant-garde art dotted the courtyard. The home was an acute reflection of the taste of a big spender. Subaru couldn't help a dry smile when he considered how the spectacle so aggressively asserted the owner's will. As Subaru was rooted to the spot in front of the gates, Rem stood beside him with a dumbfounded expression on her face for once. If the point of the building's outward appearance was to give guests a shock, it accomplished its goal 10 times over. You're not going to tell me this was the previous owner's style, are you? I feel sorry for him. Ah, well, this is actually the princess's taste at work. It was a pretty extreme makeover, you know? I sympathize with the folks who worked straight through the night, but she slapped their cheeks with sacks of gold coins so they couldn't complain. Hey, that's completely different from slapping people around with a wad of bills. Whacking people with a bag of coins would totally count as actual violence. The man standing on the other side of the gate laughed at Subaru's joke. The man slid his thick fingers into the gap between the black helmet and his neck and scratched. Below his pitch-black full helm, the gentleman was dressed roughly, like some kind of bandit. Though he made for an odd sight in general, what stood out most had to be the fact that he was missing his left arm from the shoulder down. This casual one-armed man who concealed his face, named Al, served as the retainer of the woman Subaru had come to see. Calling himself a mercenary, he was similar to Subaru, summoned from the same world. That was the basis for the strange rapport between them, as well as the reason for Al's friendliness upon their early morning visit. "So what are you doing out here at a time like this? As you can see, I have low blood pressure, so I'm seriously not a morning person. If you're inviting me to go hunting for a bite or something, I might not be completely up for it. Nothing so tame as a family restaurant. Today, I'm here to speak with your princess." "Princess?" Unable to see the expression behind the helmet, he had no idea how Al was looking at him at that moment. An unpleasant pause followed as the one-armed man seemed to mull it over. "Well, I did get to recharge my supply of maid energy, so I guess I can take a message." That was more meaningless than I expected. Besides, it's not like you don't have any maids in this mansion, right? Hey now, you don't understand Princess. You think we can have maids waltzing around when Princess thinks she's the cutest in the whole world? The only thing we have in the mansion is a cute young butler. My fault for asking. It might lower the value some, but yeah, can you pass on a message for starters?" "Sure thing," answered Al in a casual voice, leisurely vanishing back inside the mansion. Rem, standing to the side and a single step behind him, maintained her silence as her neutral expression tightened. Through her fingertips, lightly grasping his sleeve, he could sense the worry she couldn't hide. Subaru wanted to wipe away her concerns, but that wasn't possible when he harbored the same ones. "Well, it is ridiculously early in the morning. In that girl's case, I'd expect her to say something like, 'You are interfering with my precious time for sleep.' Hey, you can come in and meet her." Al poked his head out from the mansion's entrance, his laid-back voice interrupting Subaru's barb. For a moment, Subaru was taken aback at the unexpected speed of the reply. "Isn't it insanely early, though?" "You wouldn't expect it, but Princess is one hell of a morning person. The flip side is that she goes to bed really early at night. Either way, come in." Al laughed at Subaru's hesitation and invited them inside with a carefree demeanor. As they followed behind him, it soon became clear that the building's interior was similarly intense to the exterior. Even an untrained eye could tell. Expensive-looking fixtures and pieces of art were on display in the corridor, almost to the point of impeding movement. The apparently compulsive need to endure even lamps and picture frames with gold felt like a form of insanity. "I suppose it's all a little blinding at first, but you get used to it. It's not as bad in the morning like this. The halls are seriously scary at night." "I'm not a little kid, so you don't have to tell me the halls are scary at night. What kind of adult are you?" The eyes of the statues glow. "Your master's messed up in the head." When Subaru examined the statues lining the hallway more closely, noticed they had something like gemstones embedded in their eye sockets. They probably would glow when it got darker. Both purchaser and designer had a screw loose. Rem followed behind both of them, and he could hear noises from her nose every so often. Rem had a keen sense of smell, and she'd apparently picked up some kind of unsavory scent, staring at the back of the iron helm as they walked along. The trek of the mismatched trio soon came to an end. "Princess is in the top room up there. The whole floor is one really decked-out room. Sounds kind of like a hotel suite. Can we go in?" "Well, you can, bro." Al's reply contained a clear implication when he approached the stairs and indicated the floor above with his thumb. At the unsettling undertone, Subaru shifted a guarded look his way. Hey now, I'm not saying it to be mean. Princess said she'd only meet with you. The young lady will be escorted to the guest room. You think I'll just hand her over when you were talking about recharging your maid energy earlier? You got me there. Don't worry. I'll be waiting right here in front of Princess's room. It's a pity, but I'll leave escorting the young lady to my senior scold. Anticipating Subaru's concerns, Al's voice suggested he was barely restraining his laughter when he snapped his fingers. Immediately, a young man with curly pink hair and red eyes appeared. The only words Subaru could think to capture the youth's essence were "pretty boy." His small frame was dressed in a butler's outfit, while his face showed a stern, fervent devotion to his duties. But somehow, he gave off the impression of a pervert. Take good care of our guest now. Yes, leave it to me. When Al gave the youth a pat on the shoulder, the pretty boy butler offered a formal reply and proceeded to escort Rem. Instantly, she glanced back at Subaru, seemingly at a loss. Sorry, wait for me until we're finished talking. All the dangerous people in this mansion, helmet guy included, are going to be on the top floor, so just relax and wait up. That's harsh, bro, making me out to be some suspicious guy. The intruders do say that about me pretty often. Subaru ignored Al's peevish reply and stroked Rem's head to put her at ease. Rem almost closed her eyes like she was ticklish, bowing her head as she resigned herself to the inevitable. Afterward, she gently drew close to him and whispered an additional word of caution. Understood. Please be especially wary of that person. Rem's eyes looked at Al for only a single moment. Apparently, he'd really set off her alarms. Got it. If Subaru truly wanted to believe in his amiable compatriot, Rem's appraisal of his trustworthiness was more natural. Considering the back and forth at Crucia's residence, it was best to regard Priscilla's people as opponents as well. Subaru nodded and smiled. The pretty boy butler led Rem along, vanishing down the corridor. Phew, not bad, bro. I see she's really sweet on you. If you're gonna do that, just do a proper whistle. Not that I can whistle with you. It wasn't as though the weather was cold enough that it physically prevented anyone from whistling. For the most part, Subaru had bitter memories of how he tried and failed to learn to whistle since way back. Ah, no can do. Lips aren't intact. I can't manage a real whistle. That's so. Sorry about that. The answer was heavier than Subaru had expected, so he abandoned any thought of pursuing the matter. Well, it's a pity to keep the young lady waiting like this, and Princess gets annoyed and scary if you make her sit around too long. Better head upstairs, pronto. Short and sweet. Big help. Incidentally, what's Priscilla's mood like today? Since he was dealing with Pricilla, her current disposition would affect the results of any discussion to a rather frightening degree. I don't think it's particularly good or bad, so that means you really can't go in expecting anything. Princess's moods can change before, after, or during a conversation, and they can go up, down, left, right, or bounce all around the place. What she likes to talk about isn't set in stone. You need to be good at ad-libbing to get by. So it's a no-prep match. The worst kind for me. He climbed upstairs, slipped past a dancing hall, and came to a door, an exceedingly ornamented one. This is Princess's way too big private room. She never calls me inside, so I'll wait here while you go ahead. Ever relaxed, Al sat on the stairs leading up to the door. As he did so, he drew his curved broadsword from his back of the hip sheath and laid it over his lap. She's not in a bad mood, is she? I don't want to get sliced to ribbons, and I'm tired of dealing with her when she's unreasonable and in a temper. I'm sorry, but she's dumped a lot of her unreasonable demands on me, too. After Al gave his petition a blunt reply, Subaru took a deep breath and pushed open the door.